Father God, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for your blessings, Father. We just ask you to be with us tonight as we discuss the business of the city. And Father, we just pray for these families that have been mentioned tonight, these that have lost loved ones. We just pray that you would give them comfort, Father. Just again, go with us through this night, Father. Continue to bless us. Thank you for loving us enough to send your Son. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. We'll call the meeting to order. First thing is to adopt the agenda. Everybody had a chance to look over it.
So low.
All right, Fred makes a motion to adopt the agenda.
There was a, yeah, y'all had asked me about variations on the sound and information about that, and I had gathered that, but I'd never presented it back to y'all. Y'all had asked about it.
You can add that as old business.
We can add that in there. Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
The other thing I'd like to modify the agenda with is, we come back to the animal shelter operation. We were given the contract for us to review, and it still hasn't been renewed.
That has to be on next month.
So we,
They've asked, yeah.
Yes, they came in, they called me this
so we have to
morning.
wait for them to come ask for something before we renew this contract? Is that what they're gonna discuss,
Well,
or is it something
they
different?
told me they want to talk about the agreement this
Okay.
morning on the phone.
All right.
Okay, so is everybody in favor then? Okay. Again, y'all excuse me. Everybody have a chance to look at the minutes was emailed to you? Any changes or corrections or anything in the minutes? That's in 2 meetings, one, three. Yeah, that's right, in 3 meetings. Okay, we need a motion to accept the minutes, then. Nicole, Fred seconds, and all in favor. Okay. And, yeah, I think everybody got the copy of the claim approval document also.
Can I ask a couple quick questions about the docket? The different rates of poll workers, some were 75 and some were
It
95.
depends, they were return officers or
Okay.
just a regular.
And the nitro fighter chemical, is that for the fire department?
It's for the
No,
lagoon.
that's the
That's for the
lagoon.
lagoon.
And the batting cage purchase, was that from the park department budget, or is that?
That is, no, it's at the school, but they pay us for that, but they have to buy it through us.
Gotcha. Well, that's because it's city. Yep.
That's city property.
They'd actually pay for it.
And then there was one item, I saw it a couple times where there's some money. So one example was the dump truck repair, where there's a transfer in for about that, or there's a transfer for about the repair amount, and then there's a debit for the repair amount.
I don't see what you're talking about. I have to go calculate.
So there's a transfer from general fund, it's on page 7, for 2,500. And then there's a truck repair for 2,200. And so I wasn't sure if that was related money being moved out to make that payment, or if they were separate.
Yes, that 2,511.
Yep.
Yes, that money is transferred into a separate account, and then once that payment is made, we have to transfer it into a separate clearing account, which
But
is that
those-
street equipment fund.
So that was cost to the city of the 2,200. We didn't pay that twice.
I'm looking for the one for 22.
Right below the next line.
Oh, it's
So
2140,
20
okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's two different things. That's
Two
two
different things.
separate items,
Yeah.
two complete. That street equipment fund is where we put money into to pay for the equipment when we put it in, it's once a year payment, and we have to pay it out of that. That other is just an actual bill that had to be paid to Summit Truck Road.
And then was this heavy because it was the last month? Because our run rate is about 250,000.
Not necessarily, it just depends on what
When
I might
things
tear
hit.
up that month or how much you might have to have.
Because the total was about $500,000, which
Mhm.
is almost twice what our
Sometimes
normal
it's a
month.
good deal, just depends on what happens that month.
And then the transfers to the AP clearing. Can we see at some point what happens with those accounts as well? Because we're
That's
transferring.
what this is right here.
Okay.
That's our monthly bills that we have every month. All that money is, when we enter our invoices,
Mhm. So what's the difference between what's in those folders and what's listed here?
this has also got your paid claims, your office checks. And then this is just the bills, that's the invoices. It'll say docket of paid claims and then docket of unpaid claims.
Okay.
So what you've got in there is monthly? Okay.
So what would make something like a bill from Napa show up here, but we transfer about $170,000 into the clearing account?
What you're seeing here is the checks that actually were in last month's account payable, because we wrote the check after the board meeting.
Gotcha.
It's a clearing thing. This is really a separate amount than what is gonna show up here,
Okay.
because this is actually last month's invoice that we wrote. It's on the paid claims.
Yeah. Thank you.
So when will we get the list of the actual budget for each department? Monthly?
I gave you the current one now that's in there now.
Okay. And when will we get the itemized list of employees that are getting paid? These are just lump sums with no information.
If you would look through all the little packet I
Uh-huh.
made you, it's in there.
Okay, well, I walked
Everything that's
in,
highlighted
started
is
the
in that
meeting, so I
folder.
haven't had a chance to look at that.
Understand.
Okay, any other questions about the document claim?
Any question about the document?
That's what this was.
Oh, that's an old document.
Oh, no, it's in here.
Everything's on that highlighted list we put in there for you. Of course, there's a few things we didn't have time to get together that you requested, but what's highlighted is in that folder with your name.
Now, let's go back to the item on the agenda right now for the document claim approval. Do we have a motion to accept these? Okay. Go second. All in favor?
No.
All right, 31, 7, okay, Mickey?
Main Street Board normally passes met first week of the month, and usually when I come to this meeting, I'm able to give you a report about what has transpired. But last month, they changed the meeting to the second week of the month, so I don't have a report from the January board meeting. But I do know what's going to happen in January, and that is we're going to elect new officers for the board, and we'll also lock down a program of work for 2018. That's what we've done every year for the last decade. So once that happens, I can bring that report back. One thing we are doing is we're starting a program with the American Institute for Architects and working with Mississippi Heritage Trust. And it's a preservation engagement program for people and students that are in high school. And it's using local architects and local tradespeople and recent graduates from local colleges. For example, somebody from Water Valley, Whitney White, is a recent MSU graduate in architecture, and she's going to help us with that. And we're also going to use people that teach trades and architecture at Mississippi State. Anyway, it's a combination that we hope to engage high school students in hands-on projects that will combine preservation, architecture, and building trades, and give people in their junior and senior year in high school exposure and perhaps thought to think about taking something like that in college. Anyway, so that's a program we're starting up this spring, and we get going on it actually tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, the next item is the funeral home on Baker Street, and it was burned out, and Daniel?
I contacted the owner and had a conversation with her, and she verified that she does want to C to City have the property, but she's had a change of heart in that she wants to sell the property for $1,500, which is what she says would make her feel better about all the taxes she's been paying on the Byrd building. And so, I'm just the messenger, but that seems kind of fair to me, so.
Don't for me.
Well, you're the boss.
Do we know yet what we do? We release the ordinance. We reprinted that ordinance about derelict properties or hazards, if we declare it as a public hazard,
We
And
could
it
do
is.
that.
then we have a bunch of tools.
Sure.
What, 30-day notice
I have to look at it, that sounds right.
How long has it been burned?
over a year now.
Yeah, I go for that.
I don't, has it been over a year? I thought it burned like in February of last year. Yeah, of 17.
17.
Yeah, 'cause I was coming back from a show at the
Right at a year.
Emporium and saw the glow and we went and unfortunately watched it, but
Spring 17.
Because as I understand it, we could, with 30 days' notice, clean the property,
then assess the cost back.
assess the cost back to the tax bill, and in 3 years, it would become the city's. And be
Yeah,
clean
yeah,
over those
yeah,
3 years.
If she didn't pay the tax bill.
Right.
I do mean to play hardball.
But sometimes it's time to, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
a hazard.
It needs to be
Yeah.
cleaned up.
And,
And especially where it is.
Our ordinance says anything that's burned out after 6 months, we have the right to do something about it.
Because that's right there at Baker Street Park.
Yes.
I mean, it's right there where a lot of
6
kids go
months. We
to
need
the
to
elementary
vote
school
on it.
along that way.
Well,
Mm,
I will
definitely.
let her know what y'all's opinion is.
Do we need
No, I got the
just an
consensus.
opinion, just,
Hardball.
I'd say we could go to 30-day
We'll be glad to
notice.
vote on the 30-day notice.
Do we want to gently send that message, or do we want to vote to send a certified letter?
Well, if we wait, and she got 30 more days now for the next meeting. So,
We need to
it's up to
move
y'all.
on now.
but, I'd be in
Move now.
favor of going ahead and sending her the notice,
Yes.
I think. Kind of what Mr. Fred was saying there.
Move now.
Just,
Yep, you're making a motion to,
somebody wants to,
Make the motion.
all
Move
right.
now.
Nicole's going to make a motion, we send her a 30-day notice, either have it cleaned up or,
Just motion to proceed by the statute,
okay.
Okay.
ordinance
Motion,
to
okay.
clean it up. That gives it
Get
broad
that.
authority no matter what I need to do.
Fred
Just do it.
seconds. Get all this, all in favor? Okay. By the way, we did have a couple of estimates to, if we, she gave it to us to have it cleaned up, but till we get it resolved, I don't suppose
What was
any
the
need
ball-
to.
Is there a ballpark?
Yeah, the high was about 3,900 and the other one was about 2,500. And that is them doing it, the two contractors doing it all themselves, but if the city helped in any way, if the street department could help. I know the 3,900 said they would be willing to knock off maybe even as much as half, but
Right.
it's going how much help we can give
That's
them.
down to dirt.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's down.
At this point, it just needs to be down.
Yeah, it does. Like I say, it's in a bad location now. Anyway, we'll proceed on that and find out where we go when we hear from her. Okay, item number 7 is the, property adjoining the library. Did we,
Yeah, I researched that and adverse possession doesn't apply against the city because of there is no statute of limitations that applies to the municipality for that regard. So there's no worry there. However, there is other instances of legal rules of law that may apply, estoppel and latches to the city allowing the current owner and the predecessors entitled to using the property. And so, So there is a possibility of litigation to determine who owns the property. As I've stated before, Mr. Dudley Kelly thought it was his, and so did Bobby Adams until he had the survey done to check it out. And so the city hasn't been claiming it, and in the past on pieces of property that the city hasn't been claiming, we just claimed it over to them.
Is there any
Maybe.
cost to that process?
They have been paying taxes on it, actually, haven't
I'm not sure.
they? I mean, I would guess.
The preparation of the deed would just be part of something we do.
As far as less than a third of an acre, I believe, on it.
Yeah, we've done that in the past to the alleys that run in between people's properties and squaring up property lines, giving, so this is right in line with things we've done in the past.
So there's a precedent for it.
Yeah.
And there's a structure on it already.
Right. It is true.
I should get, quit it claim deed.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion to do a quick claim deed. A second to that motion. Nicole, second.
Can
Any other
we-
discussion on it?
I'd still like to know, is that a half an hour billable time? What does that cost the city?
Half an hour. Normally it's, no, I bill, that would be half an hour is what we bill at the office for that.
Is that something the city wants to pay for?
You could approach Mr. Adams and see if he'd be willing to pay.
I'm sure he will. That won't be a problem.
Yeah, I think he would.
Can we amend the motion to include the city not spend any money for this, but is willing to go forward?
Put it
with the
forward.
quitclaim? Mr. Fred, is that okay?
Amend your motion to let Bobby pay for the quick claim deed rather than the city.
If you want to.
Yeah. We'll just amend that to the, and like I said, I think he wants to get everything legally set, so I'm pretty sure not Bobby, he would.
I'll second. Do we have a second?
You got a second? All in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, I should have announced this start, but after last board meetings, I was asked by some of the board members that, well, we had somebody on the agenda, if you would mind, come up and stand to address the board so everybody can hear you. So Miss Evelyn Turner, you're next. So Miss Evelyn, if you would come up to address the board.
I'm first standing over there.
Well, talk to us.
First thing I want to talk about is ask is, do we have anything in writing stating that Board Warner have a cure, or will be able to cure that chemical problem that we have here in Water Valley?
That's litigation that's ongoing.
There's not Board Warner explain that, please.
It's
Yeah, Borg Warner was not, they purchased the property unknowing that there was a chemical spill on the property. So as in all, they're as much the victim as anybody else, Borg Warner is from what I understand, what I've been explained. And so there is a company trying to work out a resolution to the problem, but we don't know when and how.
It is a different company that owns that spill.
yeah.
So in the meantime, we just have to deal with and suffer with all this pollution and stuff sucking into the ground. In the meantime.
Yeah, well, it's hard to address ongoing litigation. But
We do
again,
have the wells that are currently continuing to clean it.
they're monitoring, yeah.
Monitoring for the
I
levels.
can't hear you.
But
They're still continuing to monitor the levels, and I guess they're still reporting that to the EPA.
The state, MDQ.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
there's, actually, all of it right now, fortunately, is still south of the Old Tuckaloosa.
Has there been any motion in that bloom in the last 15 years? everything I've read in the paper and everything we've seen that's been publicly released says it hasn't moved.
Yeah.
It's just come to people's attention.
Yeah.
And so there's litigation around it. Lawyers have gotten involved.
Yeah.
But it's not near the city drinking water. It hasn't moved
But it
beyond.
have been.
No,
No.
never.
No, never.
Never.
It's not
The
good.
city wells are on this side of the creek, and the bloom has never gotten to, you know that, is it blue, that blue little building as you're going past the Crawford Sports Complex? On the left side, there's a blue little testing building. That was built to watch, to see if that chemical ever came. That far, it hasn't. And
Stay the same.
it would have to come to that and then cross over the creek to get close to the city water source.
Okay, but has it, do
No.
y'all know whether or not that it has crossed over towards
It
the
has
nursing
not.
It
home?
has not.
Towards
Oh,
the
nursing
nursing
home,
home.
that,
Oh, the nursing
I don't know, that's,
That kind
that's, it's two sides to every lawsuit. Lee's laughing back there. It's two sides to every lawsuit. And like I said, we're not being involved in the litigation at this point in time, so, you know, I'm not gonna say any more about it really, because I don't know enough to say anything about it.
Well, can you tell me, why did we give Board One such a huge high tax break? And who approved it?
Well, it's two different ones. The county always gives a tax break, and then the city usually follows suit with that same amount. And basically, it's to keep Board Warner here. I mean, they supply a lot of jobs. There'd be a lot of communities that would love to take them and give them all the tax breaks in the world. And it's a necessary evil to keep industry.
And we might want to add that they're not the only company that gets tax
Oh,
breaks.
no, they're not. That's right.
Mhm.
That's,
It says, well, we hired and created jobs, you know, to improve Main Street. Now that we have done that, are we going to end that job and find something else, you know, to focus on, create some other positions to focus on in the area?
There have not been any jobs
The-
created to improve Main Street.
yeah, but Main
Didn't they-
Street is a separate, it's not,
It's a separate entity.
it's a separate entity. It's not part of the city per se.
They're part of a state level entity,
In
But I thought-
national level, actually.
the national and state, right?
But when I was here, I believe I heard them say that they had created about 90 jobs here in Water Valley, and they were on Main Street.
Well, that's because the business owners, Kagan,
Go ahead.
others along Main Street have improved buildings, opened businesses, hired people.
Mickey could do this better, but I'm gonna take a crack and watch him. So, when you read in the paper, Mickey had some amazing ads that were over the last couple months about all the work that's happened on Main Street. That was, when he says 90 jobs have been created, do you remember 10 years ago how many buildings on Main Street were empty?
I also remember how many buildings was built too.
That was,
That
if you
was
go
a lot
more than 10 years ago. So every building that isn't empty today has some bodies in it. And they're either running a restaurant, or they're selling clothes, or they're selling food, or they're selling something.
Is that not considered new jobs?
Those are new jobs, but they're not, the city doesn't pay any of those people.
Right, those are private entities, so the money that they're talking about investment-wise is each individual that wanted to either buy a building there or rent to improve a building there, all along Main Street. They have put their own private, what's called private investment monies. So they took their money out of their pocket or went to the bank and took out money in their personal name and took that money and improved a building, improved a lot, improved a storefront, put, you know, put a roof on, you know, improved everything about the building. That goes from electrical to plumbing to everything else that you would want to make sure that everything is working well in a building. But that's called private investment dollars.
So none of that was
So-
taxpayers' dollars?
No,
No,
ma'am. No, ma'am. And $10 million is a rough estimate of what each individual or business owner had contributed to their personal property and added up, and that's where that sum of money has come from. There's no money in the Main Street Association bank account that ever was $10 million. It's added up what business A plus business B plus business C, and that's how we get those monies. So then, when you open a business and then you have to have employees, that's where those employees' numbers come from. So
I know
BTC
what
has
Katie
gone
was
through,
fixing to say.
you know, you hire somebody and they either stay with you or they quit or they lose their job, and that's where the job numbers come from.
And another component of all that private investment, everyone, all the people, Mechanics Bank, or me, or Mickey, or anybody else who has worked on a building, their building is quickly reassessed,
Very quickly.
which means that their tax bill goes up dramatically. And that money is actually being paid into the city as a present to the person who improved that building and created some jobs.
Just like Monopoly, you make improvements on a building or a hotel, you're gonna pay taxes when you run through that and hit that tax. You know, you have to pay that tax for improvements.
Tax anyway.
Yeah, so, the city was never involved with, receiving money, spending money, or hiring individuals to do any of the work that was done, any of the improvements that were made. Private individuals or firms were hired to do that work. And it keeps money here. It increases our taxes, it increases the amount of traffic through our Main Street community. And what I like to remind people is Main Street goes all the way down past my business down there at the clinic. It goes all the way out to the bypass. So Main Street is a big entity. But there's a definition that the state and local Main Street associations have made the definition of that help me with the wording on this.
District.
There's a district. And I believe that the statistics that Mickey was talking about in the paper and the ads and on his card and things like that was money that he had knowledge of that was spent within the district that our Main Street Association is in support of.
So I think the answer to your question, are we going to use the next $10 million to do something else? If we find another $10 million, then it's something wonderful.
Yeah, if we could get people to come and spend another $10 million in our town, that'd be wonderful.
He got $10 million.
Yeah.
Nothing personal to the alderman at large. But I do want to know, why do we have our alderman at large, running for mayor? You know, you can run for anything you want, but I still want to know, running for mayor. And you just got in that position a few months ago. And now we know that it's possible that we could have used that money. You might have used your own money. We might have used tax money. I don't know, but I'm asking.
I'm running
Couldn't
because
we have used that money? Because every time y'all run an election,
This is not a political.
it costs money.
okay, I'm running because our mayor retired. Now, who asked me to run for mayor not too long ago?
I did, but you told me you wasn't gonna do it.
At that point in time, that's right, because we had a mayor, but you did ask me to run.
Yeah, you said, I don't want it, I wouldn't have it, I ain't gonna do it.
At that point in time, that's the way it was.
Well, what changed your mind?
Well, we don't have a mayor right now.
So it didn't take any of the taxpayers' money, for your election?
It does take a taxpayer's money, but it would, whether I ran or the other candidates, it was still the same amount of money was spent.
So it's still taxpayers' money?
It's still taxpayers' money.
So why couldn't, wouldn't,
Because the state statute said that we have a certain amount of time after a position is vacated, we have X number of days to fill that position. And you fill
But
it
the taxpayer
by,
money's not paying for your campaign.
oh, no, taxpayer money
No.
is not paying for my campaign at all. It's
Thank-
just to hold the election.
I can see that misunderstanding. The election costs money. We will have an election no matter what to fill the seat. Mr. Donald
Him or
running
anybody else.
doesn't
It's still
impact that,
taxpayer money.
and he doesn't cost the city anything because he chose to run.
Just
So
like
it-
any of the other candidates here can testify to, they get their own money and then they send a piece of paper into the Secretary of State's office and tells them how much money they've expended on their personal campaign. So no city tax dollars goes for anybody to run for position.
I mean, that would be just like any election, what you gonna do, anybody that qualifies to run, you're gonna divide it up, and make them all pay a portion of the expense. Not the way it's done. It's just cost of doing business sometimes. Unfortunately, this is our cost of doing business right now.
Well, is it the responsibility of the board to save tax, you know, to help us to try to save our tax dollars?
Definitely.
It sure is.
Absolutely.
But we
But
don't have a say in
filling,
Mayor Hart retiring.
State statute.
filling an
That's not
empty
up there.
position on this board or in the mayor's seat is not something we have a choice in.
Repeat what you said, Nicole.
I said it wasn't our decision, or we don't have anything to do with Mayor Hart retiring. So that was his personal choice. So because he made that choice to retire, then we have to have an election.
I'm gonna ask that question again. Was it at the taxpayer's expense?
Any election is gonna be at the taxpayer's expense, because you have to have an election. There's no way to get around that.
What you said?
All city business is at the taxpayer's expense.
I just wanna know where my tax dollars going.
Well,
I thank y'all.
all right,
Thank
thank
you
you,
very
Ms.
much.
Evans. Okay. Did I give you that list? Next on the agenda is Eddie McGee, the Planning Commission. And Eddie dropped this off to me today. It said, please accept this letter as my resignation from the Water Valley Planning Commission, Eddie McGee. We're, let's see, we're down, we replaced one from Ward 1. Fred's gonna bring us a name in just a minute from Ward 2.
He was either the mayor's or the alderman at large, is Chuck.
I
Position.
appointed him about
Okay.
5 years ago, I suppose it was, as, when I was alderman at large. So that, was the alderman at large position, which,
So who's left on the planning commission?
your dad,
Eddie Foster.
Eddie Foster,
Lynn Morris.
and Lynn Morris, and
And Casey
you,
Clevenger.
we just voted Casey
Mhm.
last week. Those three,
So-
there's supposed to be 6.
So one from each alderman, one alderman at large, and one mayor.
Right,
So we'll probably wait till after the special election is over in order to get our seats back together and make those nominations.
yeah. We could go ahead, and like I said, Fred has one tonight, we could vote on that one.
Sure.
But we need to make sure we get it back ward by ward. And of course, the 2 at-large, we'll say positions will be different, of course, but make sure we've got each ward represented on that. What was the name for Fred's? Benny Joe Sales. Fred is bringing Benny Joe Sales as his nomination from Ward 2 on the Planning Commission. And Fred, you'll make that in form of motion.
Did do.
So he makes that in form of
Do you know-
motion.
do you know
Benny
Benny
Joe
Joe?
Sales on the Planning Commission.
Can we get a little bio on him? I don't know if Benny Joe Sings. A little info, background,
Not really, I'm not familiar with
He
him.
lived in his city hall of his life.
or? Okay.
You know anything about him?
If he's willing to serve,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we'll
and
come to
and
meetings
willing
too.
to
That's
learn how to
the
do the
thing.
job.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's the biggest deal.
Yeah, because we've got several things that really,
Well, we need to address the bylaws of the planning commission. They're outdated and incorrect. There's some things in here that need to be
Okay,
removed
let's,
and changed.
let's deal with Mr. Fred's motion for Benny Joe Sales. Do we have a second on it first? Okay, get a second. All right, now we can discuss him, or, all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, now, if we want to go ahead and talk, since we just got planning commission there, we can discuss that. And I didn't bring my copy tonight, but I know that.
There are some errors.
I know there's
Yes.
one that they just scratched through, and
Yeah, a couple of just scratched through, and it's not consistent. I think one point says Oxford, Mississippi in
yeah,
there.
because they just barred it.
Yeah, so that definitely needs to be updated. The appointment is scratched out as a 1, put a 3, maybe it should be 4, because maybe it should go with the
Election.
election. Then, Section 7 and Section 2 don't match, and then they're supposed to be elected to serve each year, and et cetera. So we just kind of need to catch up on our own rules and regulations on how we're supposed to be handling this committee, which I think is a great committee, and we need to build it back up again and have it fully working.
I'd like to make a motion that, excuse me. Excuse me. We let our attorney clean and polish that document so it actually applies to the city of Water Valley, and then we address it next month.
Okay.
So-
Well, motion, we have a second. We have 2 seconds there. All in favor? The ones that are here, please step out. That does need to be addressed. Okay, next item is Ms. Sandra Johnson. Ms. Johnson?
Good evening, everyone, board members. I'm Sandra Johnson, a citizen of Water Valley. I'm also a volunteer in Service to America. I currently serve as a capacity builder with the Services of the Armed Forces component of the American Red Cross. Tonight I am here to respond to Colonel Paul McDonald's offer to relinquish to the National Guard's lease back to the city. If that should happen, I'd like to propose an idea that the National Guard Army could become a donated space for the American Red Cross, which would be a very valuable asset and a benefit to the community of Water Valley and the surrounding areas of North Mississippi. As we know, the American Red Cross is very beneficial to any community with their provision of humanitarian services to local citizens and the support that they give to first responders. It's a fact that unfortunately every day there's some kind of a disaster in Mississippi. The Armory infrastructure would be an ideal place for the American Red Cross services, such as disaster shelter, CPR training and first aid, home fire campaigns, crisis counseling for families, a means to obtain basic medical, health care, and medications in the event that there is a disaster or a citywide emergency. The building could also be used to recruit volunteers with essential training for vital areas of service in the community, such as babysitting. And I like to pass that around so that you can see. That's just one of the simple programs that we do have to offer. Also, it would be a good place to make referrals to the community partners as well as government resources. It would also give community service hours to our high school and college students so that they could meet their graduation requirements. There could be after-school programs as well as military and veteran support and services. At this time, I'd like to give each of you a copy that will give you a little more detail of the services and programs that we have to offer and would like for you to consider if this should take place, the relinquish back. I would also like to repeat again that I am a Service to the Armed Forces capacity builder, which is my mission is to work with active military service members, their families, veterans, and this is to support, promote, implement, and expand services that will sustain operations of the American Red Cross. 2 years ago in Oxford, our extension there was relocated to Sardis. We had a donated space by the Sardis Police Department However, that space is very small, and it does not substantiate the effective means that we need to really properly provide all the services and programs to the community. Therefore, we may be seeking a better place that we can better serve our community. Ideally, I know that with shared space with the National Guard would be a perfect fit with the American Red Cross. However, that need would have to be explored further with the American Red Cross directors and commanding officers of the unit. However, this is an informal request to consider that the Water Valley National Guard Armory could be a donated space for the American Red Cross to serve citizens and the North Mississippi and surrounding area. Thank you. Also, I'd like to say if anybody is interested in becoming a Red Cross volunteer, I did leave some cards out in the lobby, so feel free to pick one up and give me a call. We'd be glad to have you on.
Any comments?
Can you tell us, is there a little funding that pays to keep the facility open?
I'm sorry, are there any questions or comments?
Yes. Is there funding from the Red Cross to keep the location open, to pay the utility bills and things like that?
Those would have to be the questions that you would ask with our directors. However, like I said, right now we are in a donated space. They're in Sardis, so we do not acquire any expenses. And so we would like to continue to have a donated space, being that the Armory is already a donated space.
You're not losing the facility in Sardis that's donated, you've just outgrown the facility?
Exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
thank you so much.
Are there any other questions?
Is this information for us to keep?
It is.
But right now, then, there's still hopes that the Armory's gonna be here.
Right.
That's up to the governor and adjutant general, not us.
Would be great services to have in the area though.
Yeah, but, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of other,
Maybe another
Right.
space for that.
you know,
That won't be your only option. We can explore something further, okay?
Thank you.
okay, item number 11 on the agenda, the bank deposit bids. And Vivian can open these.
We received two, one from Renaissance and one from Mechanics. We generally, go by the interest rate.
Right.
Renaissance will offer the City of Water Valley interest-bearing demand deposit account special fixed interest rate of 1.01% APY for a 1-year period. And Mechanics Bank. Mechanics Bank will pay interest monthly on the balance of each checking account without regard to neither minimum nor maximum balance at the rate of 1.05%.
Who are we using today?
Mechanics.
So if Renaissance is 1.01, then Mechanics bid on
4 basis points.
If we're basic, just on rates.
And Renaissance said, with a minimum and maximum as well, so.
No, well, they
The
just
word the
said,
same?
interest-bearing demand deposit account with special fixed interest rate of 1.01% for a 1-year period. Basically, it's the same type.
different wording.
It is different wording, except there's potential for fees based on
A
low
minimum,
balances.
you know,
With Renaissance.
fall below a minimum balance.
Probably. It probably would cost us a lot of money to change accounts. Actually.
It would. We've done it, and it will. It does.
But,
I'll make a
Back
motion.
over you and let Cam back.
Fred makes a motion that we continue to use Mechanics Bank. We have a
I'll
second.
second.
Kagan, second. All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, item number 12 is the estimates on the rehab project, and you should have copies of the request from, broken down on the first page of the email, gives you the,
The actual cash
Yeah,
request will come
cash.
later, but he wanted to go ahead and get this approved.
yeah. And the,
Cash request paperwork.
right. So the invoice from Willis, that would be paid. Right?
Yes, sir. And,
That would come from,
and the contractor as well for the construction. So it's like 52,582.50.
So the process is we approve this, and then the money is released from the grant that we
Grant,
received.
that's correct.
By North Central Plan.
And as y'all noticed that, I'm fixing to get started on that also. Gonna be a little inconvenient for a little bit, but, hopefully I'll move as quickly as possible as the weather permits. So we do need to, enter this request into the minutes, so we have a motion to,
I'll make the motion.
sentiment. We have a second from Nicole. Any discussion on it?
No.
All in favor? It's unanimous. Mr. David? No. No, personnel, just your other.
Okay, I got you. I would like to try to get a new sewer truck for the water department. The one we've got is over 20 years old. It's old. The newer generation coming up can't drive a standard ship truck. That's one reason, that's just one reason. It's old.
I'll teach them how to
I
do
would
it.
like to get it, well, we've tried teaching them how to drive. They went through drive shafts, clutches. Every time you turn around, we're having to get the clutch adjusted. I mean, it's nonstop.
Really?
Really.
It's a hilly town, there's a lot of hill stops.
What truck?
The pressure truck.
Pressure truck, okay, that.
Plus, Coffeyville is looking to buy a truck. We go down there and help them every so often, help blow their main lines out when they have a major blockage. Which is more wear and tear on the truck. You know, and it's just, the truck has been rolled, it's wore out. I believe it's time for a new one.
Is there an opportunity to sell the old one?
Yes, Coffeyville is looking to buy that one. Rough estimate on that truck is probably $19,000 to sell.
Can we strike from the minutes that he said it was run down and old?
So Coffeyville knows how to drive a stick?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm not gonna say they know how to drive it, but
Leon.
Not as many
they,
hands.
I'm looking at that to help them out, plus help ourselves all at the same time.
And a new truck would cost?
I've got one here for $199,000. They're costly. Now, this will be a better truck than what we've got. More pressure, more gallons per minute, and do the job.
We have just the one estimate so far, Dave?
Well, two different trucks. One was $199,000, and the other one was $118,000.
That's an $80,000 difference.
Right, and it's and it's, the $199,000 will show you a difference too. I mean, it's more worth it. To have that truck, you know, it will do the job.
What do you have in your budget this year to spend on equipment?
I believe it was, 64,000 a year to spend on equipment.
Have you ever heard of any grants that would help with this, defray the cost?
Let's see, he had mentioned, deferred, let's see, I wrote it down. I might have it at the plant down there, the office. He had mentioned a couple different ways to pay for this truck.
We'd like to explore that,
Yeah.
for sure.
I think those
I
are,
can get him up here, and let him talk to you more about it,
Yeah.
as far as how to pay for it and stuff.
those are financing options, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's,
it's not
Okay.
grant, it's,
Yeah, that's just.
Would y'all like to
gonna
see
be,
specs on both?
Yeah, we need specs on the
Definitely.
truck and
Yeah.
where the estimates are coming from and,
It's a lot of
you know,
money to
That's a
spend.
lot.
what's on the
Money.
truck, what's needed, what's actually needed for the job, for our city.
he and I have discussed that,
'Cause we don't need a fancy truck that,
oh no, it's,
you know, a
it's,
bigger city would need. What we
Right,
do
no,
need,
it's-
what,
it's
what
basically what-
meets our needs here.
it's basically what we have, except it's got more gallons per minute and, more pressure.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have to get
that'll
bids as well.
definitely have to
Yeah.
be bid, I mean.
there, the 64,000 that's in your budget today, how much is left over for a big purchase?
That's a good question.
So I
don't
think,
know.
on
And
a
that's
qu-
based on future revenue, so you don't have
Correct.
$64,000
It's not
sitting
in
in
the
the
account right
bank.
now.
Right.
That's our
As it-
projected budget, so we
as it
don't
comes
really
in
have
monthly.
64, it's just allocated for
Right.
that line.
That's right.
so that it's pretty easy to break down into, they probably finance it over 5 years, monthly payment over 5 years, which is something that,
Yeah, I was hoping
You-
more than 5 years actually, but, to get the payment, just in
Yeah.
case something else happened and everything, but I didn't know how long we could get the loan for and stuff, so.
Yeah, so we'd have to get all of that information from the finance entities.
Right.
So keep working on this, you know, thank you for bringing this to us, and let's get some more information.
Okay. Another thing, is a rate increase on the water and sewer bills. Right now, the average customer is using roughly 4,500 a month, 4,500 gallons a month. Average bill is $15.28. What I'm proposing to do is keep the base rate and change the flow rate. That keeps all these older folks that uses the same amount of water every month, keeps their bill about the same, and these folks that are filling their swimming pools or huge water leaks, industrial users that use it more than the whole town, will pay their fair share of the water rates.
have you done an analysis to see what our water rates, how they compare to towns around us, not Oxford, but other towns?
Somewhat of a rough draft right here. Let's see. Where we're charging a residential customer $10.40 base rate and $1.95 every thousand after that. Grenada charges $6.65 for the first 2,000 and $5.36 for each additional 1,000. And that's residential, commercial, and industrial. That's all across the board. We have a declining rate on industrial users, which is hurting us pretty bad. Our poultry plant uses more water than the whole town does in a month.
Okay.
And we are spending, let's see, I think, for 1 month, I think we made, like 13,000 on the water and sewer. We're spending 6,000 to 9,000 a month on chemicals for the lagoon,
Okay.
plus electric cost. Roughly, let's see where I have it. Roughly $1,500 a month on electricity, just to provide them with water. So, I mean, we're spinning our wheels with it.
So-
the rate change for the industrial customers would be, it would stay the same, except for where it says over 3 million gallons, instead of 65 cents, we charge them $1 per thousand after that. So where Valley Tool, BorgWarner would stay mainly about the same. The one using the majority of the water would pay for it. So,
So what, do you have, so I just did some quick math. So for a residential person, they're based on 4,500 gallons,
that's
average
an average,
usage.
just average, yeah.
We are 35% less than Grenada in charging our residential customers.
Yeah. And when I talked to him, he said theirs was cheap.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I'm paying an average of $35 right down the road. So,
So that, I just went to that water training.
I did too. That's
And
what
they,
I was ready to
they
say.
ran through the numbers of, it's not just what it costs to get out of the ground, but it's what it
Right.
costs to replace your sewer every 30 years, and what it costs to repaint. We just approved $250,000 to paint our water tank.
Yes.
It's a non-profit, but it has to pay for itself. So it's not
Right.
about, we've got to figure out what it costs to run our water and sewer.
And I'll let you
then-
come and do a free rate estimate for you.
I think he came up, the Mississippi State person.
yes, they came up and did a rate study for
They
it.
did? They already
Yeah,
did it?
and this is,
Okay. 'Cause I was
this is
gonna say,
what we
that's the
came
next
up
step
with
is a
right
rate
here.
study.
Now, this was, instead of hitting everybody at one time, this is like, you know, raise it up this much.
Yeah, it's a stepwise approach, the way
Right,
they call it.
instead of, you know, seeing dollar changes on your bill, it's just more like, the way I figured it, 37 cents a month. It's on your water, 60 cents on your sewer, so, for residential and commercial.
So do we have a similar, so that was some quick and easy math for the residential.
Yes.
Do we have a similar comparison? If our chicken plant wanted to look around and say, are we paying way too much for water in Water Valley? Under the proposed rates, how does that compare if they picked up and moved to Grenada or to Batesville or somewhere like that?
Like I said, Grenada is the same all the way across the board. They would be paying out the wazoo in Grenada for their water. They have the same rate for industrial, residential and commercial.
No
Same
step
thing,
down.
no change.
So what?
No step down at all, just
Like say where,
Yeah.
where we step down.
Okay.
right, where we have a declining rate on industrial
So-
customers, they do not.
What I've heard for a decade is we don't want to charge some business accounts in town too much for water because we might drive them out.
Right.
But
Right.
there is nowhere in Mississippi
They
that-
won't find it no cheaper,
that
I don't
I,
believe.
that I'm aware of. I made some calls too to just, what's your industrial water rate? And there's nowhere in Mississippi our businesses could relocate and pay a lower rate for water. So the question is, if we are not charging enough to pay for our own infrastructure, what is that rate to charge? And I'd like to not just say out the wazoo, I'd like to actually put a number to it and say,
Right.
for the chicken plant, who uses a large amount of our water,
Yes.
something like 85 or 90% of our water,
Yes.
their bill is gonna go up dramatically if we touch this rate.
Yes.
But is it gonna go up half of what it would cost them to operate if they moved to Grenada? Or is it going to go up 20%? I'd like to know that number.
Was that included in the rate study that was done by Mississippi State?
Oh, let's see. Their average per month, gallons of water was, last year was 13,851,075 gallons a month. That's their average. We collected $10,486.72
Annual?
monthly.
Oh.
That's just the average
Amen.
monthly
I was like, okay.
figure. Let's see.
Can we do this math?
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, let's see.
We go
I don't think I had this all figured out. I didn't lost
Are you telling us that we're actually losing money on supplying water to this particular industry?
pretty close.
Okay.
Almost breaking
We're
even.
probably breaking even. But if we do what I proposed, we'll get an extra 65,000 a year out of them on water and sewer. And
Well, we definitely need to see your proposal in writing and
okay.
get the numbers and get the Mississippi State rate study. And we'll have to look at it. So Kagan's running some numbers over here for
Yeah, I
us.
shouldn't be doing this on the spot, but we're charging them on a. And what is Grenada's rate per thousand? What is Grenada's rate per thousand?
$5.36 per thousand, and $6.65 the first 2,000
Their commercial people are paying $5 and something per thousand
per
gallons of
thousand.
water.
Ben Swinger down there, I think they're paying 120,000 a month.
Hold on,
their
say
water.
that. It's $5 what? $5.
$5.36
Significant difference.
per thousand.
So,
And he said that they don't mind paying it either.
so if the poultry plant relocated to Grenada, their bill would go from $10,000 to $56,000 a month.
Yes.
So
But this proposal would bring it up to,
you're saying going up to $1 per thousand?
No, $1 per thousand after 3 million.
Be adding about 5,000.
It's roughly 3,000 for the first 3 million, and then $1 a thousand after that.
Okay. That's,
cheap.
Yeah,
I would
that's
like
real
to,
cheap.
who here could have a conversation with the poultry plant about, this is a cost comparison. I promise you they are aware of the savings they are experiencing on the water.
Yeah,
bill.
they're aware.
They were.
And then, I hate to be the one to say it, but is $1 per thousand competitive? And does it pay our ongoing bills?
It will help. It will.
It's about 60,000 more a year, that's 5,000 more a month, but yeah, that would
Right.
definitely
yeah.
put you in the,
That
in the
would
bite,
help out,
for sure. I mean,
especially with stuff we need to buy. We need to buy more aerators for Lagoon, which is what I've got next.
So just these preliminary numbers, I am all for an increase in our water rate.
Yeah.
But I'd like to, one, know exactly what the numbers will be. And I'd like to have a conversation rather than just dropping an axe on a business. I'd like to have a conversation
Right.
beforehand about this is coming and maybe have a 3-month step up to get there. So who should have that conversation with the poultry plant?
I'd be glad to if they would
Could you?
agree to sit down. We've had some sit downs with them before, but.
But that,
Yeah.
Well, you know, you probably both should go together and sit down and,
Well, I would rather them come to our turf.
well, I mean,
Yeah.
wherever you are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Have,
let them come
have
here.
him with you.
yeah, definitely would. But, yeah, we'll try to, if y'all want me to, we'll try to set up a meeting with them.
do you have a number for, I'd just like to have more than one community for comparison.
Yeah.
But if we could say in that conversation, if you can say their monthly bill would be $56,000 in a neighboring community, it would be $48,000 in another neighboring community, and we're talking about raising it from 10 to 15.
Yeah, we would need some hard numbers when we sit down with them because, you know, we just want
I
to
can
throw
talk
out
to
some
Bedford,
numbers.
Rockford, see what they charge.
Um,
That would give us all our surrounding counties there.
Dave, would that affect, when you talk about commercial, what we sell to the water associations, the rural water associations?
No, I think that's separate. That's under
And you
rural
have
water.
more time.
But what I've got from them is it'll raise theirs probably $1,400 a year. So it's not hitting them real hard because we just raised theirs not too long ago, in which they raised mine.
You can't get away from that.
The rural water
They jumped mine way up. But it won't hurt them too bad, or the all residential and commercial customers. It's mainly the ones that use the majority of the water, which is them up there.
Can you make a note to get, wait for David to get some numbers and then we'll call and start to a meeting.
Also, I'd like to propose to get 2 new aerators for the lagoon down there, to help with our ammonia problems. I've talked to our engineer. He thinks we need 2 20 horsepower aerators down there. Of course, we've talked about it, and we're thinking these new diffused aerators are the way to go. Not only will they save us in cost and maintenance, they're not as expensive either. These aerators here are roughly 13,000 to 14,000. One thing we'd have to do is a couple of control boxes, run some wire, let them do the rest. They'll come in and set it up.
Wait, what?
He's trying to get paid back now.
I don't like it down there either. But I'd rather do it in the winter time, so y'all approve it. It's a lot better than.
Is that 13,000 per?
Per
Increases on
aerator.
That
the-
would have to be
Yes, ma'am.
bid then.
Yeah.
He-
And again, that would have to be,
So we have 5 currently,
We have 4.
4.
We have 4.
And how many are
One
running?
keeps, we have 5, one keeps tearing up.
All right, we have 5.
That's an older style
One's
aerator.
One's not working, or 2 are not working.
One is not.
One is not working.
And the more we have down there, the better our chances are of keeping the ammonia low for when it gets winter time. Hopefully to keep us in compliance, maybe less chemical cost. Hopefully we can cut that down also.
Okay, so we're looking to replace one of the aerators that don't break, and so.
That breaks down every time you turn around.
Okay, so then we'd have 6 total.
We'd have 6 total.
And so is there some way we can sell this other?
It's
Piece of
actually not
equipment.
ours, it's
Not
actually
ours.
borrowed
Not
from
ours.
the beef plant.
So they can come pick it up,
Counties.
take it back with them? All right.
y'all,
Keep it for spare.
y'all don't.
Yeah,
I'm not
because
taking
It actually belongs to the
we might
county.
could put it somewhere else if we can
Okay.
get somebody that knows more than I
If
do
it keeps
about it.
breaking
to fix
down,
it.
why do we wanna have, you know, but-
Yeah.
Like I said, that would
I
have to
agree.
be bid, and we have to have specs on them to bid it.
yeah. So, yeah.
So, yeah, it is above the dollar amount, so we would have to get bids.
Okay.
Would this also help with the odor problems in the
That-
hotter months?
Those 2.
Most of the other problems in the summertime is coming from the poultry plant sale. They also need more aerators, but getting them to do that is another story.
Could we take the broken one and stick it over there, and just when it's running, it might help?
Is that
Wouldn't
legal?
that one, I would suggest making them get the 2 that's in there going, the 2 big ones that's in there. Now, what's wrong with them, I'm not sure. But,
Are any aerators running in there, so?
there's, I believe it's 4. I think they're supposed to have 5 on them.
Do we have money in this year's budget to buy $26,000 roughly, based on bids? 2
Yes.
aerators?
Yeah.
I'd have to look again, but I'm
Equipment
pretty sure we do.
64, you'd be taking big chunk, and then,
Well, what if we
again,
got
it'd have
one?
to-
What if we got one and worked
We
on
could-
getting another?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could get one at
Split
a
it up.
time and, you know.
that'd be,
Also, it's probably,
What's that, Miss
We
Vivian?
haven't heard back from the state yet on that fine, then for
Right.
They've accepted our offer to use the aerators yet. We still
yeah,
don't know what's
I've,
gonna happen.
I've been talking with our guy from DEQ, and I told him I was gonna propose that we get those 2 aerators for the lagoon down there, and he seems to be on board with it. He's all for it. Of course, they're all wanting us to just get along, but I kind of agree with that it's more or less the poultry plant's fault for loading us up down there.
Can we get bids, official bids? I'd like to move forward
We'd
with
have-
getting
yeah,
bids,
we'd have
and then
to
we'll
have a
decide
motion
if
to-
we accept them.
to get bids, but we need the specs to, of course, to run the bid according to certain specs.
Okay.
You said your engineer recommended,
2 20 horsepower or aerators.
okay, so.
But I've
get-
talked to him
yeah.
about these kind here, and he seems to be on board with those more because of the diffused air. It's not as rough as what we've got now.
Okay.
And they're not as expensive.
Right, and it's less to maintain, and
But we would have to have those specs to put in the bids.
Right, yeah, so get those specs together.
But we
can we make a motion to ask for bids for
Yes,
irrigators?
we can have a motion to do the bids according to the specs that will be presented.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Now Kagan and Cinnamon second. All in favor? That's everybody. We'll get back to the other part later.
Okay.
Stick around.
All right.
Okay, the next item, of course, is the quarterly electric department write-offs. And that quarterly write-off is $7,679. But I would draw your attention to one of them is part of that, almost half is one large one that we are addressing. We are addressing that one through our legal channel.
So we're taking action to collect.
Oh, that largest one on that list.
Yep. Just a question for, I'm not sure how this works because it's under the electric department.
Andy, can you address this?
So we're taking these and we're charging them off as an accounting step, putting them over somewhere. Do we have a collection company that we defer these to?
We do not have a collection company. We've checked into it in the past. It's gonna cost us more than what we get out of it on a lot of these bills. If you go to collect, by the time we pay a lawyer or a law firm to do it, what it's gonna cost us, what we do, we have complete records all the way back. If they leave us a delinquent account, they may come back, we see them all the time, come back 2, 3, 5 years later. I won't put a deposit up, sure. And their name pops up and they have to pay the bill in full before they can.
Before you get re-hooked up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we don't make any arrangements with them to pay it in time. We want our money then. They've had plenty of time to pay it.
Do you know how much is in that account, dollar figure?
No. And it would be big.
Yeah.
I have actually, even at one time, and Daniel probably could tell me about this, I'd actually entertained the fact, put their name in the paper, run a big ad.
Why don't we do it through the delinquent
But
taxes?
the problem would that be, how big it'd probably be the whole paper, literally. And could we legally just say, hey, we're gonna pick out this amount this month and put them in there, because would that be discrimination? Because not everybody was put in there at one time.
No.
I'm familiar with some collection agencies that, they don't take any money until they collect, and then they take a portion of what they've collected. And the fees are also paid by the person that they're collecting from. Are you familiar with those types of collection agencies?
I'm not, but if you got somebody just ballpark, $24.49.
Times.
Well, that's what the late bill is, yeah,
Yeah.
for however long. But these are just this past quarter,
Well,
you know.
I think that everybody knows if they move away, they don't have to pay this. They don't have to pay their bill anymore, and it just get written off. And
Well,
it's
what
a gimme.
I'm wanting to do, and they're talking about it. They're working on a thing where the utilities get together and get tied in together. Somebody leaves here and goes to Oxford, goes to Pontotoc, wherever they go, and they go to put their deposit in, guess what? They gotta pay that money up first to give us our money back before they can get on. It's a hard thing to do, and they're working on something for that.
I'm familiar with those companies as well, mostly because if I forget a bill,
They're
I get a red envelope from somebody I don't recognize very quickly. If we have a couple $100,000, I bet you it's more than that.
Oh,
In accounts unpaid. I would like to look into some sort of company that would go through the actions at no cost to
Oh,
us.
I'd be, at no cost, I'd be interested
But
in
we
it.
get a
I use one
percentage.
that's no cost.
Can I make a recommendation? Let's do the write-offs for this quarter, and then one of y'all want to volunteer to contact one of these companies and
I'll do it.
and get with Andy and
Sure.
if that's
Absolutely.
yeah, I can imagine, because in 8 years on a quarterly thing, we've averaged probably 3,000 a quarter right now.
Well, it's 9 now.
Wow.
And of course, this one is a large one because it's one large one that we are addressing. Okay, all right, do I have a motion then to accept the write-offs for this quarter and with the Simmons, Coles making the motion in a second? Kagan second, all in favor? Okay. Now jump way ahead on the, we've already taken care of item 15 when we brought up the planning commission earlier. So that one has been addressed. Item 15.
We do Daniel's thing?
Did we do what?
Yeah, the sound ordinance update.
Yeah, we couldn't get to, I was gonna ask for any other business.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, we have any other business, Daniel and Cinnamon, or?
Could you give us an update on the sound ordinance?
Yeah, there was, I've checked several different cities' ordinances, and they seem to all mirror one another, at least the three of them did, and then there was one that was like a shortened version of it. So this is the longest version, and get copies for everybody to look it over. But it provides for the variances and the permits from the sound ordinance, and application for variance or permit shall be approved or denied within 5 days after receipt by the chief of police. And then this one specifically is the city of Gulfport, but there were several that mirrored, like Gulfport, Biloxi, and I think it was Horn Lake or South Havens that I looked at was very similar to this also. And then, but any permanent, it just goes through the guidelines. And so I'm just going to make copies of this and send it to you for y'all to review and to look over and to see whether y'all like it. But it's specifically for the activity, operation, noise source, or offering noise, and then it goes through the various things. And so it says you were wanting a short deadline, so if somebody came in, they'd be able to, it's a gimme basically, they know for sure. So it said chief of police shall have the authority consistent with this subsection to grant special variance and permits upon written application only upon a good and sufficient showing that the activity, operation, noise source, or offending noise will be of short duration and cannot be done in a manner that would comply with this section, or the applicant needs additional time to modify equipment or take other action in order to comply with the provisions of this section. So if somebody comes in and says, look, I got to jack up half of a parking lot and tear it up and put it back in, that's going to be a lot of noise. I know it's going to be, but we're only going to be doing it for this week. That would be something that would fall under this. That's, you can't do it otherwise. So those kinds of things that are necessary but can't be done otherwise in a manner that would comply would just be gimmies. A construction company knows that they could come in and get that.
Yeah, they'll just apply for that permit.
Right.
Is there a decibel limit in there?
No.
Okay.
Have you got?
Well, I know. I'm still working on it.
In trying to remember the gentleman's name, and I'd have to apologize to him, but the very knowledgeable man.
In Oxford?
Dave War?
No, that lives right north of the park. We all know him.
Here?
Mr. Jim
Person?
That's it.
Oh.
Mr. Person.
Okay.
He was explaining that the reason that a lot of these don't use the decibel level is because the decibel level is so subjective, I think is the point. And so because it's subjective and different things will make different decibel levels in different atmospheres, that's the reason they don't use the decibel level. And that's why he was suggesting that we contact an expert who can explain that problem or phenomenon, that something will make a different decibel level noise in a different atmosphere. And that may be.
I keep running into that, and I'm trying to find a simple solution. There doesn't seem to be, because cold nights, the sound of a bell travels a lot farther, and then you have to get into exceptions for athletic events and church bells and all sorts of things where crowd noise. A Christmas parade, you would have to have a specific permit for the sound. So I'm unsuccessfully trying to find a simple way to put it in writing.
There may not be one. I mean, that may be why you're having such a hard time finding it. but I'll make sure everybody has a copy before we leave tonight.
We just come down to violation of the noise ordinance.
Okay, so
Yeah, I wanted to make an announcement. This Municipal Government Week, it's January 14th through 20th. There's a little resolution that we can put in the paper that it's Mississippi Municipal Government Week. And you know how I love little resolutions. And a news release and things like that. I could get to David if anybody was interested. It's like a kit that Mississippi Municipal League sent to us. It's all kinds of different activities for schools and things like that. But at least get the resolution out there and let everybody know that it's municipal government.
if you can get him to do it for free, we don't need a motion.
He puts any resolution in, he doesn't charge for that. I mean, you know, I mean, David's not here, but
He charges for it.
he charges for, like, a resolution? Oh, okay. Well, there's also a press release, and that if you write an article, it's not, we don't have to pay for an article.
So, they,
We could put it on our website.
if he'll do his press release, it's fine. Like I said, not knowing what amount he might charge us, it'd be hard to do a motion to do it, and it's,
All right.
but, I mean, it's a good idea,
Yeah.
but,
Well, I
and if you can get him to
send him
do
his
it,
press release, and if he wants to put it in
we
his
put
paper,
pressure on
that'd
him right now. We can talk about it in board meeting and say, you know, I'm sure David would do this for free.
be
but-
great. Zoom in on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just send a letter to the editor. That's
Yep.
free. Here's a
Okay.
template for a letter to the editor.
More than one way to skin a cat.
All right.
Do we have an update on the list of derelict properties that we turned in? I think we do, but if we wanted to.
I
say
gave
that.
them to Billy today, as I told you, and I have not heard back from him. I was to proceed with that.
So that was, how many properties were on that list when we combined them all?
I would say probably around 30 maybe.
I've got,
That's
I've got
that's
40
roughly.
more that I haven't turned
That's
in.
roughly, you know. It's-
In a notebook.
So the next step would be Billy Humphries as our building inspector will,
You can give him a 30-day notice, I think, on cleanups.
he has that
He has the
ability.
authority to do it, I think, as our
Mhm.
officer.
So do we need to tell him that
He's
we're
the
kind
officer
of
of the
ready
board
to do
and
that?
that,
or-
acting in behalf of the board, yeah. He's given that authority.
I'll touch base with him tomorrow.
Can-
again.
Okay. And I did make an email to everybody. I finally got the slides from the cleanup property when we went to the Mississippi Municipal League
Great.
instructional video on that. So it's about 40 slides I sent to you guys in the email today.
Okay,
I sent
great.
to Daniel too.
Okay,
And then I had one more.
okay.
Daniel, have we had any progress on the rewriting the easement to be more specific for?
Tyler property.
Yeah. Can we make progress on that this month?
Yes, we may. I did speak with Mary about that, but I have not got it back.
The other thing that we talked about in a special meeting that was supposed to be on the agenda was the fire department to follow up with the things that Sherman, made a presentation to us about. Remember that? So we're going to discuss that.
The Pacific thing.
I'm gonna
That
do,
was November meeting.
as for the easement,
The December special meeting.
is I will draft that and then email it to everyone. And
Oh,
then
sorry.
we won't, don't respond to the email, but you'll have it to review to come up with questions so we can discuss. So you won't have it the day of, you'll have it to review.
Can you make sure David guides you on what he needs for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'll try to get that out.
Where is that now?
That's
The Tyler property.
Oh, I got you, I got you.
We want to get that in writing so that she can move forward. Okay, sorry. So the fire department, we've talked a lot about the fire department, and the proposal that we had showed a new pay scale that would exceed what we have in the budget today, but there is room in the payroll budget for the fire department today. When do we want to discuss that?
It'd be executive session, it'd be personnel. I mean, we have a matter for executive session, we think, anyway, but let's include this other business. Is that all we have in the open? And I think we have a All right, Steven, help me with the wording.
Motion to determine whether we have an executive session.
Yeah, we have a motion to determine whether or not we have an executive session. Kagan?
So moved.
So moves. Go, Simon, seconds. Everybody in favor? All right.
So the Board of Aldermen will now.
Go into
know the
executive
determination
session.
whether They need to go into executive session, but that determination is
David,
for
You stay in, David. Well, first, step out, David, then we'll bring you back in.
Okay.
We've got one more step before we're in executive session.
That's right.